打ち損じると黒が死にますね。1の2が急所です。
惜しい、その上なんだな。
君
Welcome to the Hikaru no Go Tsumego series. In this first episode, we're gonna start from the beginning, which in this case is actually the second episode of the anime. As you saw in the intro, Hikaru accidentally or unknowingly whispers or he actually says it out loud to the players and to everyone around him that there was a mistake in a Tsumego problem. And the Tsumego problem in that series or that scene is a very iconic one from Xuan Xuan Qijing, which is one of the oldest and probably the most influential and historic Tsumego not series, a compilation of problems, and many other Go books that came afterwards probably stole a whole lot of problems from that book. That book is from the 1300s, and there are around 350 problems there, and most of them involve some kind of tesuji, but many of them not only demand a tesuji but other very tough to find moves. So it's a very ingenious and difficult collection to solve, and I think only the top echelon of Go players are able to really solve it. I think I'm probably able to only solve maybe 20%, and I've been playing Go for a very long time. I play usually nowadays as a Fox 5 or 6 dan. I oscillate between 5 and 6 dan. And yeah, it's very tough for me. And this first problem actually isn't all that hard for me because it involves a Tetsuji that's known to most strong players, not strong players, but experienced players. I'm not saying I'm strong, but anyways, this Tetsuji appears in many other Tsumegos, and here it's a little bit more nuanced because you're gonna use it to create an eye. Usually it's more for winning capturing races. And the Tetsuji here is this point. The 1-2 point is usually a key area, or yeah, it's one of the key points in capturing races and Tetsujis in general. Here you're aiming at creating a shortage of liberties around these free stones because there are two other cutting stones here. And you cannot really take the stone directly. White will take the other eye, and you cannot create a second eye even with this Tetsuji. Now, white can simply capture these stones. You can try to create a second eye there, but it just won't work. White can just simply capture here, and there's nothing. You play around here because if white connects, you can now take the eye in Sente because white is short on liberties on this side, and finally you can go back to creating the eye here. There are two ways white can use to resist the first Tetsuji, and one of them is to play here to block an eye in the corner, and now you can take one eye, and white cannot block the other eye, the eye around here, because if he tries to save this stone, you can finally apply a squeeze and he can't connect. And since these are free stones instead of two, you can get an eye. So if this happens, white can recapture, but you take an eye anyways. The other way of resisting after this Tetsuji again is to block from here, for example. And now you don't capture, because if you capture, then white can go in to delete this eye, and you cannot really make another eye because you need to create an eye and connect your stone. So if you try to create an eye like this, white can just capture and then falsify the eye in the corner. The idea here is that you capture this stone while connecting your own. So you have an eye while connecting your stone. If white takes the other eye, now you can block here and white cannot play here. It's Atari. White needs to capture, and then finally you get the eye in the corner. It's very difficult to see something like this if you've never been told about it. Like if you had to come up with this on your own, wow, amazing. Congrats to you. I wanted to also bring an example to contextualize this Tesuji because maybe you might think that it's not very commonly used, but I think it's much more commonly used than many other Tesujis. Tesujis in general are not that rare actually. You do use them on games pretty regularly. It's not like some Tsumegos that have shapes you never see in a game ever. With Tesujis, it's much more useful to train Tesujis for real games than random Tsumegos. Even though random Tsumegos might be able to get that increasing reading ability. This is an example coming from one of my games. I played against a stronger opponent. Maybe our difference would be around 3 stones, 2 or 3 stones. And we played a variation of a small avalanche here. It's a rare Joseki nowadays, but I think it's still very much playable. The difference is probably negligible. And black can extend here if he has the ladder. And the ladder I'm talking about is coming from here. So black has the ladder here, but so this variation won't work for white. White blocks the corner, and the typical Joseki goes like this. And it ends with white taking the corner more or less cleanly. I would say pretty cleanly. And black won't even get a Sente forcing move here because white captured the stones pretty tightly. If, on the other hand, we try to go for my idea, which is number 20, it doesn't lose that much, but I was trying to crawl a little bit more to get Sente. So yeah, crawling here won't be very good because I'm making a second line move for a third line move exchange, but yeah, the idea is to take Sente because Sente is very valuable at the beginning. Yeah, again, you won't lose much, but it's very difficult to execute perfectly, especially if you don't know the variations very well and you don't have time, which is more or less what happened in this game. Continued crawling, but my opponent played an overplay here. He couldn't have cut. I tried to punish him, but I failed. I went up here. I should simply block, and he can't continue here. It's a very interesting problem. It's not that difficult once I tell you that there's something fishy here, but in a game it's much more difficult because you don't know what's happening, and he can't really continue to rescue V-stones because then I can capture him in a net. It's a net that involves a coal around here, but it's one of those coals you just close your eyes and capture no matter what, especially if it happens at the beginning of the game. This is a 60-point coal or something, and it determines basically a quarter of the board right off the beginning of the game. So it's not playable for black at all. I went up, and now black can protect these stones, and I don't really have a way of capturing these important cutting stones. But I can apply a Itsuji and Itsuji in the corner, and it's the same Itsuji we saw earlier. We play from this side because we undercut these stones from the weaker side. If he tries to, for example, honey from here, we take that stone. It's not possible. And if he tries to go from here, we connect our stones to the Tetsuji while taking liberties from the important cutting stones. That's why this Tetsuji works. In this case, and in the other case, the iconic Tetsuji case. However, here, if he blocks, if black blocks, which is the best move, it's a little bit more complicated because black managed to get an Atari, a stone here. I can block, and then when black continues with this move, he created a echo. It's gonna be much more difficult to capture these stones than it might seem. So black doesn't even need to create this code right away. He could add a move in the center, especially because I can run away with these stones. Yeah, it's a free code to basically kill everything at the bottom right at the beginning, and it's not very fun for white at all. So just modifying the problem a little bit. If he hadn't had the opportunity of playing this move, then it would be much simpler for me. I can, once he blocks, I can block, and now there isn't much he can do here. So he will lose the capturing race no matter what. He has 2 liberties, I have 3 on this side. And once he has that stone over here, he can create a ko, and it gets much more difficult for me. So that's it for this first installment of our little series here. In the next episode, we're gonna see probably the most famous series of Hikaru no Go, which is when Kaga uses his gum to answer a super hard Tsumego from Toya Meijin. Yeah, that Tsumego is very difficult and curious as well. See you then.